Hello, I'm Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and in this episode, I wanted to do a little bit of self-reflection, and by extension, I'm inviting you to kind of do the same thing, right? And in this episode, I want to talk about a notion of how certain life decisions, force us into career decisions. Now, before I fully get into it, I would like to take the opportunity to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various episodes and lessons that I put out right when I put them out. Thank you if you just did, and also appreciate you if you already were. So let's kind of talk about this, right? You know, it's almost like a chicken and the egg type of thing where, you know, if you like, if you have a taste for expensive things, let's say, well, then that kind of forces you to have a job that can pay for that, right? Now it's like kind of, well, like, no duh, when we all want that. But it's interesting how sometimes, like, we kind of nudge ourselves towards that. And this is, like, what I mean by this is, a lot of times, what the ultimate point of this is, we end up in jobs that are not our passion, not our purpose, simply because we're trying to fit a mold. The idea that we're going after a certain career path or whatever because we think it'll lead to a certain lifestyle, or just the job itself seems glamorous. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that get into the entertainment business, I want fame, right? And glory. And it's like, well, that's, not necessarily going to happen, and that's not the reason why you should get into it. And so part of it is you become unhappy, right? In a lot of ways, right? I mean, think of the cliche, let's say, lawyer who just hates being in his job because it's like soul crushing, or a banker or something like that. And I'm not listen, if you're a lawyer, if you're a banker and you love it, power to you, right? I'm not saying everybody does, but I'm saying, oftentimes people go into career paths because of, the certain outcome. And in some sense, like, Seth Godin talks about this, we're trading for the outcome. And in some ways we can almost like kind of get sucked into these things. If someone invites you to a fancy restaurant and you get a free meal, that's all well and good and it's noble. But the interesting part is, now all of a sudden that kind of becomes your new baseline of like, ooh, this is cool, and I want this. And then you're starting to work for that as opposed to, what you ultimately want to be doing. And I talk a lot about this, and through this lens, ultimately, what it's really getting at is having an intent. David Foster Wallace has this notion that far too often we operate on our natural default setting, and it's basically a point in which we go about life mindlessly. Whatever's been programmed into us, that's kind of how we do it. And so, whether life decisions or, certain careers, right? The flip can work where you have this job and there's expectations of you to, have a certain lifestyle, right? So you buy this fancy house, you buy this fancy watch, fancy car, whatever else. And it's like, well, no, you like the job, but you don't like that. And so, unless we stop and be intentful, then these things are like just through the culture programmed into us. And not to say that those are inherently bad, but they're bad if you don't really stop and think about it and be like, is this agreeable to me? Is this what I want, right? And my friend Chelsea Galicia, who's a financial coach, she talks a lot about this. Money and currency at the end of the day, and the reason why, like, especially couples fight over money, it's never really about the money, because the money represents values. And that's all this is, right? These are values. And if you don't define them for yourself, if you aren't purposeful and deliberate, then as Seth Godin says, you're going to be trading for an outcome rather than, as he likes to talk about, for the process. And the process, part of that is, in an idealistic, altruistic sense, what feeds your soul. And it's not to say that every day is going to be laissez blah, easy breezy. No, I think that's a fallacy. That's an amateur only does what he loves. The professional loves what he does. So hold on, I want to make sure, because I might have mixed that up. The amateur does what he loves. The professional loves what he does. Okay, so did you notice that distinction? I'm getting cross-eyed in some sense on it, but it's a minor thing. But essentially, the idea really that we're getting at is to have, to find the joy in anything, right? Now, again, be deliberate about the things that you do, and having joy with the things that you do is deliberate. It means setting an intention. So these are things I want you to kind of think about in your life, because I think they are important, because I think this is how midlife crises happen and so forth. And it's not to say that you can't ever change your mind on things and so forth. We're meant to, I believe, have multiple careers and things like that, because we evolve and change and so forth. But again, it starts with intention. And so without it, I think you're going to be miserable. So just understand how your certain life decisions can lead you to a certain career path or vice versa. So may that help you, and may it allow you to be happy. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any thoughts that 2 cents of your own that you would like to add to this discussion. You can comment down below or hit me up on social media at Svitek. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and hope to see you next time.